Yeah, so tonight's episode is definitely going to divide opinions. It's going to divide opinions between those who believe, those who definitely do not believe, and those in the middle who don't know what to believe. I'm going to be talking about Area 51 and going to be taking a good look at the Roswell incident that happened, giving my thoughts, giving my opinions for what they're worth. Now, I firmly put myself in the middle of those three options I gave at the start. I don't know what to believe. I've mentioned on previous episodes that I've seen some stuff, and the best way to describe what I've seen would be unexplained. What I will say is those experiences I've had have not involved any probing, no little green men, big grey men, or whatever it may be. I've seen crafts, I've seen things flying that do not make a lot of sense to me. So it's something I'm very interested in. And the reason I'm doing this episode tonight was I heard a news story a couple of days ago that really piqued my interest and brought me straight back into this subject matter. So here we go. So get your tinfoil hats ready. This is Stu Know Who. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the damn video, and let's get into it. So the news story I'm talking about, see it there, fire at famous 1947 Roswell site. Massive fire, mysterious fire erupts at Roswell site linked to 1947 UFO crash. I will play the video and then we'll have a read through the article and see what they say. Hopefully no adverts, we'll see. It is loading right now. My internet has been pretty shitty the last few days. Of course there's adverts. Kind of knew it when I clicked on it there was going to be adverts. Skip ad. So massive fire mysteriously erupts at this place. The title of the video is Mysterious Fire Erupts at Roswell Site linked to 1947 UFO crash. The site that I'm using is the Daily Mail. Anything that is in there is not being salvaged. Put it that way. It's that is a catastrophic fire. I hope everyone was safe, first and foremost. Because, wow, that genuinely is a massive fire. Now, the reason it really piqued my interest, one, it was to do with Roswell, as said. More than that, there has been so much talk over the last couple of years about UFOs or UAPs, they're calling them now. There's been meetings in Congress where they're talking about it. It's a topic that is becoming, maybe it's just circles I've run in, but definitely becoming kind of a cultural phenomenon where you're no longer looked at like you got two heads for saying you might believe, because you can point to politicians who are talking about this publicly. It strikes, the timing of it strikes me as very strange when they're starting to talk about it looking like there's a chance of disclosure type thing, and a place that is rumoured to have evidence, a place that is rumoured to have whatever it might have inside, has a huge fire inside it like that. The timing strikes me as strange. Now, I know coincidences do happen. They do, of course they do. You cannot go through a day without a coincidence happening to you. I just think this is such a big coincidence. My mind takes me to, I don't know. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. So to continue through this article and actually read what happened. So a major fire broke out late Thursday at the Roswell Air Center, just south of the legendary Hangar 84, a site long tied to the infamous 1947 UFO crash. That's what they've written in the mail, whether it's a UFO or not. We'll get more into the crash in a minute, but fire crews rushed to the scene after the blaze was reported around 7:55 local time on East Earl Cummings Loop. Authorities initially feared the fire could trigger a dangerous explosion due to hazardous material and oxygen bottles stored nearby, prompting an expanded safety perimeter and rapid evacuation of nearby facilities. Roswell firefighters worked quickly to contain the flames, declaring the fire under control by 9:45 Thursday. What caused the fire is unknown. At this time, no injuries have been reported, thankfully, and officials have not confirmed the cause of the fire or whether any historically significant objects were affected. The incident has already sparked speculation among UFO enthusiasts. Is that what I am? Just because I'm curious, am I an enthusiast now? It's good to have a title. I've been called worse, put it that way. Who have long linked Hangar 84 to alien lore and the mysterious 1947 Roswell crash. As investigators comb the sites for answers, the fire raises fresh questions about what secrets might still be hidden at the heart of the legendary location. As news of the fire spread, the internet erupted with theories about the mysterious event. On Reddit, one user posted, they are destroying the evidence. That's where my mind went to, I've got to be honest. If there was anything, another shared, chances are they were storing alien bodies in this hangar for over 8 years. But when a documentary came out, they were like, all right, boys, they all know, time to light it up and skedaddle. One person shared on X, well, isn't that super interesting? At an oddly timed coincidence, the writers, the public starts getting all curious about our past. Weird fire breaks out for no reason right next to Hangar 84. So, it does touch on Roswell briefly here. The Roswell incident captured imaginations worldwide when the US Air Force itself issued a press release stating it had recovered debris from a flying disc. The US Air Force themselves, and this is their quote, it made front page newspapers, and like you can search for that shit online. This was a US Air Force saying, we've recovered a flying disc. In July 1947, a rancher reported pieces of debris scattered over his land. Authorities were called to the scene. After investigating the wreckage, determined the pieces were from a flying saucer. The local paper's front-page story reported that the Roswell Army Field recovered a flying saucer on a New Mexico ranch after metallic-looking, light but strong material was scattered across the land. Major Jesse Marcel, who recovered debris from the crash, described the scene as a large area heavily scattered with metallic debris from a single impact that scarred the earth. The intelligence officer of the 509th Bombardment Group at Roswell Army Airfield announced at noon today that the field has come into the possession of a flying saucer, read Marcel's statement in the Roswell Daily Record. He also said the material spread out, blah, 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 blah. But less than 24 hours later, military officials reversed course, announcing that the debris had only come from a crashed weather balloon, sparking America's fascination with UFOs and allegations of a government cover-up ever since. They then changed it and said it was a special, different type of weather balloon or that. My one thing with that story all along was a weather balloon is far different to a spacecraft. And if these guys are in the military, fuck me, I hope they can tell the difference. That's what I've always thought. Something didn't add up. Now, I don't jump to little green men, although it could be, or whatever it is. You know, I'm using little green men because that's how a lot of the time they are described, or large grey men. You would hope someone who had even the slightest degree of military experience would be able to tell the difference of something that is, even if it can tell what it was, something that was man-made, maybe using some new material, but it's ours, to, I do not know what the fuck this is. It's got to be from outer space. If these are the guys, you know, you carry on up the chain, ultimately it leads to the guy who's got a finger on the button. You know what I mean? These are the guys who decide whether we go to wars, all this kind of stuff. I would hope that the panic, and I know this was that 70 years ago? 75 years ago. You would think there would be a level of intelligence to be able to see what is potentially ours or an adversary's, even if you don't recognize it, say it's man-made, to leap to the extraterrestrial side. We've got a flying saucer. And then 24 hours later, recant that story and say, nah, there's a weather balloon. That never made sense to me. As I said, the original story, the original cover story, because by their own, what they've said was a cover story. They said it was a weather balloon, and then they said it was a top secret weather balloon that we couldn't talk about, but it's got this, that, and the other. Maybe it just it never sat right with me. And I think the last few years has shown us that just because you're told something doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. So I do tend to question things. I wouldn't call myself a conspiracy theorist, although I know the BBC love to call people like myself that. All I would say is look who the BBC employs and you decide whether you trust them or not. Just saying. whilst we're being forced to pay for it as well. Again, just saying. If they want to throw insults, can do it too. But I question things. I question things. If something doesn't add up, if something doesn't feel right, you should question it. I've got 3 kids. One of them is 5 months old. So if I was having deep conversations with her, it'd be a waste of time. You know what I mean? My elder 2, 6 and 9, I always tell them, question things. And if you ever hear Daddy say, because I told you so, say, no, you've always told us you don't say that, and you explain stuff. I think that's the way to be. So, to go into Roswell, I've touched on it, I've mentioned a few things. I found this article on MSN about the real story of Roswell. So the Roswell UFO incident in 1947 has captivated the world for decades, evolving from a mere footnote in history to a significant cultural phenomenon. With numerous theories and explanations, discerning the truth requires examining the layers of speculation and fact, delving into the real story behind the Roswell crash. So, the events in 1947, this happened. What happened, we don't know, but something happened. In the summer of 1947, a rancher named Mac Brazel made a discovery that would become the cornerstone of UFO lore while tending to his sheep in the arid fields outside Roswell. He stumbled upon a large amount of unusual debris. The material was unlike anything he'd ever seen, lightweight, metallic, and scattered over a wide area. Curious and slightly apprehensive, Brazel reported his find to local authorities, which quickly escalated the situation. The military soon became involved, with personnel from the nearby Roswell Army Airfield dispatched to investigate. The initial press release from the military was surprising and bold, claiming they'd recovered a flying disc. This announcement sparked immediate interest and speculation, setting off a chain of events that would be scrutinized for decades to come, and a lot longer until we know. The government's response, the military's swift action, and the initial press release were only the beginning. Almost as quickly as the story broke, a retraction was issued. The narrative shifted, with officials now stating the debris was from a weather balloon rather than a flying saucer. Now, I've already said that is definitely a story I am skeptical of. It could be a top secret, whatever, weather balloon. I don't think so. This retraction did little to quell public curiosity, and for many, it only deepened suspicions that the government was hiding something. So, theories and speculation. Conspiracy theories. There you go, BBC. I am one. The Roswell incident has long been a magnet for conspiracy theories. Many believe that the government covered up the recovery of an extraterrestrial spacecraft and perhaps even alien bodies. These theories suggest a concerted effort to hide the truth from the public, fueling a narrative of distrust towards government agencies. We've got some alternative explanations. So, beyond ETs, there are alternative explanations that suggest more terrestrial origins for the Roswell incident. Some researchers propose that the debris was part of a classified military project, such as Project Mogul, which involved high-altitude balloons equipped with sensitive listening devices. These these projects aim to detect Soviet nuclear tests during the early stages of the Cold War. Others argued that debris could have been misidentified technology from advanced military aircraft experiments, while less sensational than the idea of alien visitors. These explanations offer a plausible reason for the military's initial secrecy. That is something I actually touched on, and it's not. Look, I'm open to be proven wrong, but the thought of it being a balloon, no matter how fucking high tech it is, was such a dog shit story that is easy to rip apart if you are of the skeptical mindset. But I did say that there's a good chance it's some sort of high-tech military not spacecraft, but aircraft of the US's own making that they didn't want people to know about. I get that. This was 1947. How long are you going to hide it for? Like, you know what I mean? Surely whatever it was has either been outed publicly or doesn't work and you've moved on from it. The weather balloon theory, and I will call it a theory, is what helps push the theory that the US government is hiding something. It's such a dog shit story that these military officials, you know, what was he, a major? I can't remember, the guy who first released it, sees this thing that was a balloon and said, I think it's flying saucers. Don't give that guy a gun. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't trust him with it. That was such a bullshit cover story. At least it definitely felt like it. Maybe I'm wrong. To me, it always was. From the first time I heard, and I remember I first heard about this when I was a teenager, thinking, that don't make sense. And my go-to was, it's either something that's from outer space or something that we're making or the US is making and wanting to hide from people. Could only really be one of the two, like, you know what I mean? That's how my mind has always gone to. So I've spoken a lot about Roswell. It is, if you love your conspiracy stuff and you have questions about aliens, I'm going to use a term again, little green men. Roswell is something you've heard of. Roswell, for some, might be a lovely place. But with the size of it, no one would have heard of Roswell, New Mexico, ever. I imagine what happened has been good for tourism, you know. At the same time, I live in a place where tourists come and visit in the summer and they piss me off. They do. We need them for our local economy, but they fucking piss me off. And I'm sure residents of Roswell get very annoyed with people on their doorstep all the bloody time. But they will have made money off of it. Such a culturally significant event, whatever the actual true story is. It's put Roswell on the map and it will forever be on the map. Now, there was a military base. No, actually, there was not a military base called Area 51. That was a conspiracy theory. Anyone talking about Area 51, I would love to know what they were labelled as. In the film Independence Day, did you know there's a scene in that where Jeff Goldblum, whatever his character's name is, I can't remember, but his dad in that film was having a go at the president, saying, "You've known about this all along. What's that base called? Area 51." And he's laughed at by the president. He says, "I can assure you there is no Area 51." And I think the bald dude next to him, it's been a while since I watched this. It's a great film. Second one, not so much. But the first one, brilliant film. And I'm sure he was CIA, said to the president something along the lines of, "That's not strictly true." And it turns out there was a base. I know it's a film, I'm not using it as a reference point. I'm just saying when that happened in the film, I thought, that's how it feels being someone who questions stuff sometimes. You're looked at like you got two heads, and then it turns out that actually you might have been right. The source of COVID springs to mind. I think I can say that on YouTube now. Put it this way, if the video goes out, I can. But Area 51, I think it was until the 2010s or something, a FOIA request, and then I think it was the CIA said, "Yeah, we got a base. It's not top secret." Oh, no, it is top secret. What's in there, but not that the base exists. And there's a lot of videos. I've seen a lot of stuff. And there was a thing a few years ago, Storm Area 51. Don't do that. They have guns, you dumbasses. Unless you can outrun a bullet, and do not storm Area 51. That's such a fucking stupid idea. As much as I would love to go in and have a look around, I like not getting shot. Just slightly more than that. There's a lot of interest in Area 51. I've seen people filming it from the perimeters and these white trucks that are on the hills, and they're watching you, and they'll come down like right in the middle of the desert. And I've seen aerial satellite pictures of runways and stuff. And what I will say is, I'm not looking at anything I'm not supposed to. This is stuff that I've seen on YouTube. So don't come and arrest me. You know what I mean? Very secretive base. And because of that, a lot of theories, a lot of stories about what is this place. And there's been a lot of UFO sightings around this place. A lot of videos. A lot of secrecy. But if it's a top secret base, what do you expect? You know what I mean? So, Area 51, this is according to Wikipedia, is a highly classified US Air Force facility within the Nevada Test and Training Range in southern Nevada. A remote detachment administered by Edwards Air Force Base. The facility is officially called Homey Airport or Green Lake. Details of the operation are not made public, but the US Air Force says there is an open training range, and it is commonly thought to support the development and testing of experimental aircraft and weapons. The US Air Force, Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, acquired the site in 1955, primarily for flight tests of the Lockheed U-2 aircraft. All research and occurrences in Area 51 are top secret / sensitive compartmented information. The CIA publicly acknowledged the base's existence on the 25th of June 2013 through a FOIA request. I've looked too much into this. If I can remember, it was the 2010s and it was a FOIA. Wow. The intense secrecy surrounding the base has made it the frequent subject of conspiracy theories, an essential component of UFO folklore. The surrounding area is a popular tourist destination, including the small town of Rachel on the so-called extraterrestrial highway. Now, if you're developing stuff, you need top secret bases. I'm not an idiot. You don't want your adversaries knowing. You don't want your own people knowing what you're doing. Sometimes you know things that are going on in the world that I understand have to be kept away from the public for security reasons. Sometimes I think that goes way too far. Just my opinion, but I also know, there are stuff that governments do that they will claim is for the greater good, for the benefit of their civilians. There are things that they do that are definitely questionable, that they don't want people knowing about. So Area 51, 2013, they finally said, yeah, there is an actual base there. After that was a conspiracy theory for how long? So this is why I don't class myself as a conspiracy theorist. I consider myself as open-minded, and the fact that 30 years ago, if you said there was an Area 51, 20 years ago, you were a conspiracy theorist, and then it turns out, shit, it's true. If you dare to question where COVID come from, you're a conspiracy theorist, and now it turns out that's probably true too. So this term conspiracy theorist pisses me off, but I think it's losing a lot of power, because difference between the truth and a conspiracy theory, about 6 months. That's a meme now. Like, you know what I mean? People like keep calling me that. It means nothing. Area 51, a base like that in the middle of the desert, that is where you would make stuff. It is also where you would reverse engineer alien technology, perhaps. Sounds crazy, I know. It does sound crazy. I didn't come up with that conspiracy theory myself. That was leaked from someone who allegedly worked there. And I will say allegedly. But just to go through down to UFO and other conspiracy theories. So, let's have a read what Wikipedia says on this. Area 51 has become a focus of modern conspiracy theories due to its secretive nature and connection to classified aircraft research. Theories include the storage, examination, and reverse engineering of crashed alien spacecraft, including material supposedly recovered from Roswell, New Mexico, the study of their occupants, and the manufacture of aircraft based on alien technology, meetings or joint undertakings with extraterrestrials, the development of exotic energy weapons for the Strategic Defense Initiative or other weapons programs, the development of weather control, the development of time travel and teleportation technology, the development of exotic propulsion systems related to the Aurora program, and activities related to the conspiracy theory of a one world government. Many of these hypotheses concern underground facilities at Groom or at Papoose Lake, also known as S4. So there's some of the theories. Where did these theories come from? There was a guy called Bob Lazar who I'd heard the name. I'd heard bits of what Bob Lazar had said. Was it true? Was it not? I'll be honest, I'd heard stuff and I don't know. I said right at the start, I'm in that middle ground of I don't know what to believe. Do I believe everything I'm being told? No. Does that mean that I believe everything that's the inverse to that? No. But I saw this guy on Joe Rogan. I love watching Joe Rogan. You learn some good shit. Sometimes my head hurts, but it's an enjoyable watch. I saw this guy on there and I thought I want to give that a watch and see what he said. Let's listen to what he actually says, and I don't know. I don't know would be my answer. The jury is still out for me. But let's read what this article says. So even if you are not into conspiracy theories, you've likely heard of Area 51, the secret military base in southern Nevada. For years, the US government denied its existence until it was finally confirmed that the facility is used for testing new aerial technologies. The secrecy surrounding Area 51 only led to even more questions, and it seemed that no one was willing to speak up until 1989, when Bob Lazar, a former employee, decided to go public. Lazar confirmed what many had suspected: the military base was used for testing alien technology. However, Lazar is a controversial figure, and not everyone believes that he's a former physicist who worked for the government. So, what is the truth? Is Lazar a fraud or a real deal? So, a bit of background. Robert Scott Lazar, known as Bob, was born January 26, 1959 in Florida. He claims to have obtained a master's degree in electronic technology from MIT and a master's in physics from California Institute of Technology, Caltech. So, however, there are no official records recording his claims. However, the universities, what I will say is if a government as powerful as the US wants to hide something, they will bloody well hide it. So again, I don't know. Confirmed information about Lazar's education indicated that he wasn't an exceptional student during his high school years. He graduated in the bottom third of his class and then enrolled at Pierce Junior College in LA. When questioned about his time at MIT and Caltech, Lazar was unable to name any of his professors or fellow students who attended these universities at the same time as he did. Lazar stated that after earning his degrees, he was recruited to work as a physicist at the Los Alamos Mason Physics Facility. In 1982, his name appeared in a news article written by Terry England. There he is. Now, this was him building a fucking rocket car, so he knows something, you know what I mean? The two discuss Lazar's interest in jet-powered cars as he attempted to build such a vehicle himself. The article described Lazar as a physicist, but England later admitted that he never investigated Lazar's background. If a dude is showing you a fucking rocket car and says he's a physicist, I don't know if I'd be asking for proof. You know what I mean? Others focus on his connections to the Los Alamos facilities and uncovered that he was somewhat affiliated with it. Lazar worked as a technician for another firm, contracted by the lab, but he never worked there as a physicist. So it goes on to say, working at Area 51, in January 89, Lazar decided to submit his resume to EG&G, a defense contractor company, and I received a call from them just a couple of days later. After the second interview, he was offered a position as a senior physicist in the Special Projects Division located at Groom Lake. He obtained a security clearance for a facility called S4 after an extensive background check and was flown from Las Vegas to Groom Lake on an unmarked plane. His new workplace was unlike anything he had seen before. It was situated in a bunker inside a hill, equipped with fingerprint scanners, which were rare in the late 1980s. He was introduced to the basics of something called Project Galileo on his first day and learned they had been hired to reverse engineer the propulsion system of a flying saucer. Those were what he says. It depends who you believe, kind of thing. But then I think this kind of subject is, who do you believe? Where is your faith? Can you prove any of it yourself? No. You're kind of relying on just hearing both sides of the story and seeing what feels right to you. At first, Lazar thought it was a hoax, but he continued reading the files, become more and more convinced it was all true. Soon after, he was introduced to his lab partner, who presented him with parts of an engine from one of the spacecraft. The two of them were tasked with figuring out how it operated and recreating the technology. As expected, everything related to Lazar's new job was classified, and he was not allowed to tell anyone what he'd seen at the S4 facility. In the following weeks, Lazar and his lab partner focused on the engine fuel and discovered it was a mixture of known elements. Now, this is something very intriguing, as well as one completely unknown substance that had never been encountered on Earth before. Never. It was believed that that substance was element 115, which was still undiscovered at the time. The two of them were stuck, and Lazar asked his supervisor for permission to see the aircraft itself, hoping they might learn something new. Days later, the supervisor led them to a hangar that held a large flying saucer. Lazar was informed that all the flying saucers housed in the facility had come from the Zeta Reticuli star system. The craft was larger than Lazar had imagined, had no landing gear. The interior was minimalistic, without any buttons or controls. One of the technicians managed to power up the spacecraft, and it just hovered inside the hangar with a blue light shining from underneath. After the demonstration, Lazar went home, waited for a phone call from a supervisor about another assignment. However, the phone stayed silent for days. During this time, Lazar noticed he'd been surveilled by a car parked right in front of his house at all hours. The same vehicle followed him around Las Vegas when he ran errands. Terrified by his discovery, Lazar contacted the local police department, which sent a patrol car to his address. The officers briefly spoke to the men inside the car before driving away. At that moment, he realised he was on his own. So he made a tough decision to reveal to his family and friends what he'd been working on. Rather than simply telling the story, he drove them to Area 51 to show them the test flights. He invited his wife and a couple of friends, and the group set out to the desert on a Wednesday afternoon. Lazar knew the pilots would be flying the alien aircraft at 8 p.m. They observed it In mid-April 1989, Lazar's supervisor appeared at the front door, and the two drove to Indian Springs, Nevada. Once there, Lazar was taken to an interrogation room with armed guards stationed outside. His supervisor told Lazar he'd been seen entering Area 51 and ordered him to write down the names of the people he told about Project Galileo. So he was caught doing that. He'd done it for his safety, is his argument. I don't know. But then we got television appearances. He contacted George Knapp, an investigative journalist working for a Las Vegas TV station. His face was hidden, his identity hidden, and he was introduced under the pseudonym Dennis. During the interview, he claimed how he worked at S4, known as Area 51. He stated his job involved reverse engineering the propulsion system. He shared the exact number of flying saucers and provided detailed description of the one he was working on. He noted that the saucer used element 115. So I want to find... Here we go. A few times I mentioned the element 115. And I said when it come up, this is interesting. In 2003, so what was that, 1989? That's 14 years later. Russian scientists managed to synthesize element 115, naming it moscovium. However, moscovium is an unstable element that decays within milliseconds, making it an unlikely fuel for spacecraft. However, Lazar stuck to his story, arguing that the element 115 he observed was fully stable. So this is above my intelligence level, but someone's made some shit that they were told was not real. Or did not exist back then. If you're going to make up some stuff, you would stick to what is known. Maybe embellish it a little bit. That's some psychic level shit. Bob Lazar is it's an interesting story. I cannot say whether I believe him or not. One thing I would say is the fact they have no evidence of him at university. That makes me very suspicious. But perhaps not of Bob Lazar himself. The fact that someone would say they've been to two well-known Caltech and MIT. I live in the UK, not in the US. I've heard of them. Would you really make up those two if you were going to go public with a story like this? Where the first thing they'd do is check your credentials and they'd say, a load of bollocks. Now either he's a very bad liar and didn't plan this one out very well. Possibly. Just if you were going to do a lie of this level, you'd have to have some level of competence to think, what are they going to check about what I can say? About what I say? Like, what can they prove that I'm lying about if I'm lying? The fact there is zero proof of him being a Caltech and MIT. Very suspicious. Now, going back to the Joe Rogan episode that I saw with him, there was I can't remember who was on there with him. Might have been George Knapp, the guy that I read about, but they said he did not work where he was working at like S4 and all that, and then they found his name in a phone book. Like they'd missed a bit where it appeared like they'd erased him from employment history, but skipped over this bit. The dude made a rocket-powered car. You know what I mean? At the very least, this dude's a clever guy. He might be a fucking Fruit Loop, but he definitely has a level of intelligence that far surpasses 99% of people. The fact that he can make a rocket car, like, you know what I mean? That's mind blowing to me. I want to go in it. You know, genuinely, I want to go in that because that sounds mental. Sounds like fun though. I think I would enjoy that shit. So it's an interesting story, an interesting character. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. That's one for, you know, he's been discredited by everyone, it seems. Everyone's trying to discredit him, and I don't know, when there seems to be such a targeted discredit of someone like that, it's either because he's such a lying sack of shit who is causing issues that you need to just nip it in the bud, or he's right over the fucking target. So he was Bob Lazar. That story's been around for a long time now. His name has been big in, I suppose you can call it, UFO circles, conspiracy circles, whatever you want to call it. But he's definitely someone who is known whenever you're talking about this kind of stuff. One more recent though is the last story that I want to pull up. Which is not loading for some reason. Bear with me. But there was computer problems at my end. Apologies. Oh, you gotta love technology, yeah. Do you know what? I feel like I'm being maybe tracked right now. There we go. So Area 51 scientist a staggering deathbed claim he'd worked with aliens for years. So Boyd Bushman, a respected scientist, they're not trying to discredit this dude. He worked at Area 51 for Lockheed Martin, made a staggering deathbed claim that he'd worked with aliens his entire life and even had the photos to prove it. One esteemed Area 51 boffin sent shockwaves around the world when he disclosed on his deathbed that he collaborated with extraterrestrials throughout his career. Boyd Bushman, born in 1936 in Arizona, passed away back in 2014. His family encouraged him to follow a scientific path, and he earned a Bachelor of Science degree from Brigham Young University, specializing in maths and physics, climbing the ranks to become a senior scientist and engineer for infamous defense firm Lockheed Martin. Boyd ultimately landed himself a role at Area 51, according to the BBC. During his 4-decade stint, he served with Hughes Aircraft, General Dynamics, and Texas Instruments, reported The Express. So there's some of his pictures in there. So many bloody adverts on this. Right, he contributed to developing the Stinger missile and the F-16 fighter jet. When he stepped down aged 64 in 2000, he boasted an impressive 28 patents to his name. This is a clever dude. Featuring a range of top secret technologies. His earth-shattering final testimony hinted that extraterrestrial craft might have fueled his genius. A bombshell video captured Bushman disclosing he had come face to face with aliens at Area 51 during his government service. He revealed that numerous scientists and engineers were working on UFOs 24 hours a day. We were trying to learn what to do, according to Raw Story. He explained what the most crucial aspect of their work was: reverse engineering. Whatever technology they could harness from the alien tech. Bushman revealed he was involved in anti-gravity research work, which is, again, going back to the Joe Rogan podcast with Bob Lazar. Anti-gravity technology was something he mentioned also. Now, this could be another crackpot. It could be another fucking Fruit Loops Looney Tune. Difference with this guy to Bob Lazar is they've not, at least from what I can find, tried to critically damage his integrity. Maybe they could write it off as an old guy on his deathbed, embellishing stories, perhaps. I just find it very weird how the two whistleblowers, if you want to call them that, have been treated completely differently. Makes you think, doesn't it? Now, I don't know what happened at Roswell. I was not there. I am not a time traveler. Okay? To me, my logic says you cannot mistake a weather balloon for a spaceship from outer space. That shit doesn't line up. When it comes to Area 51, that was knowledge of that was the existence of that was denied for so long until, what was it, 2013, 2014, whenever it was, when they finally said, yes, we have an Area 51. I get the need for secrecy. You're building shit, testing stuff. I get that. What really gets my goat, what really does my head in, is when straight away you are labelled a conspiracy theory for having questions about stuff. When I'm like, just look at history. How many times has the official story, the official narrative has turned out to be bollocks and a cover story for something else? And everyone who was saying something else at the time was labelled a conspiracy theorist. So, I don't know what's going on. I'm open to the thought of something out there, be it extraplanetary or interdimensional. We don't know everything, and one thing I can guarantee is that we don't know everything. That is one guarantee. I can also guarantee we're having stuff hidden to us by governments quote a line from Men in Black. Will Smith sat on the bench, not with Chris Rock. He sat on the bench and he said, like, people are smart, what do we tell him? And dude said, a person is smart. People are stupid and people are overreacting, all this stuff. I do feel like we're getting closer to the point where it's being filtered out to us that much that maybe the dawn of disclosure is nearly upon us. Then you have to question, do you believe what is disclosed? And that takes you down another fucking rabbit hole, doesn't it? So, I'm going to wrap it up there. Keep watching the skies. If you get that quote, you've seen The Simpsons. I love that X-Files episode. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, share the video, like the damn video. Keep your tinfoil hats somewhere safe until the next one. Until next time, I'll see you later.